Welcome learners. I, Dr. Rajlakshmi Rana, Assistant Professor, Amity University, Noida. I welcome you all to this course on Contemporary India and Education. The course code is BES 122. Problems of Indian society in the context of national development. In this module, Nature of Indian Society, we have two lessons: Indian social structure, its nature and interrelationship among the structures, and problems of Indian society in the context of national development. So today we will be discussing about the problems of Indian society in the context of national development. After this session, you will be able to analyze the problems of Indian society. You will be able to identify the changing fabric, social fabric, and also you will be able to explain the role of education for the national development. So coming to the problems of Indian society in the context of national development, if we see, the Indian society is very old with strong social and cultural traditions. It is one of the country which is marked by immense diversities and disparities. And it has a history of gross discrimination which is based on different factors like caste, class, gender, language, customs, and habits. Though this makes India culturally very rich, but at the same time, if we see this diversity, it brings problems in the national development. Many a times we see people, they fight on the basis of caste, they fight on the basis of class, they fight on the basis of language and nevertheless religion. It really becomes very difficult to maintain the social fabric. But today if we see, the world has become a global village. Western culture has influenced Indian culture also. Some of the issues which were not accepted in the ancient time, now if we see, they are normal. For example, the intercaste marriage, multilingualism, pluralism, women's participation in different areas. During ancient time, if we see, these were many problems. But now, there is a tremendous change. We can see people moving from one caste to another caste. We can see people with, open-mindedness. They don't have that narrow-mindedness. Women's participation is encouraged in every section, in every area. Therefore, the problem of national development in India, it needs to be seen against this diversification. Now, we should know what are these problems. So, let us take these problems one by one. Firstly, it is the gender inequality. Second, problem of maintaining a secular status of the country. Upholding the democratic principles. Then, problems which arise because of the linguistic diversities. Problems which arise because of the regional diversities. Problems which arise because of the cultural diversities. So, one by one, we will try to find out the details of these problems. So, coming to the gender inequality, we see that gender inequality refers to unequal treatment or perception of individuals based on their gender. When equal treatment is not given to boys and girls, men and women, when there isn't a balance, we say it is a gender inequality. If we see our history, for several centuries, women in India have been occupying a status inferior to men, and that too in all walks of life. But now, surely this situation has changed and is changing slowly. It has to be seen in reference to health. It has to be seen in reference to education. There should be equality. There should be equality in reference to economic and political situations between men and women in India. Now, why there was this gender inequality? There are some of the reasons, like you can see the various reasons include patriarchal society. There was many a times, in the, if you see the history, there was preference for sons rather than daughters. Dowry system, marriage laws, and many, many factors which created this gender inequality. But now, the efforts of government are appreciable. We find in several walks of life where women and men, they walk, side by side. They are having equal respect in the society, equal place in the society. Women are given many constitutional rights, and for this, it is the government which should be appreciated. Government is trying to give its best lift to the status of women in the society. And for this, there are several programs for women for reducing this gender inequality. Some of the programs like Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarozgar Yojana, Sampurna Gramin Rozgar Yojana, awareness generation projects for rural and poor women, Kishori Shakti Yojana, Rashtriya Mahila Kosh. We have another program like Balika Samriddhi Yojana, and we all know about Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan and Ladli Lakshmi Yojana. So these are many programs, many awareness programs which have been undertaken by the government so that this gender inequality is reduced and equal status is given to women, to girls in the society. Then again, we can see there are problems of maintaining a secular status of the country. Why? Because India is a land of diversities. Diversity in caste, diversity in color, religion, customs, faith, and so on. After independence, India was given the name of Democratic Secular Republic. It was given to strengthen the unity amidst variations and differences and to uphold the solidarity of the nation. Secularism means independent from any religion. A secular country treats all religion on equal footing, from neither interfering with nor promoting any religion. For the country, every religion is same. Same respect should be given to all the religions. That will strengthen the unity of the country. if we see the basic ideals of democratic pluralism upheld by the Indian Constitution, it speaks about justice. What is justice? Our Constitution lays down that in the eyes of law, everyone should have an equal status. To no one should justice be denied. You have to give justice to every person. Every citizen of the country should get equal. They have equal rights for that justice. The second ideal, if we see, is liberty. Everyone should have liberty of thought, liberty of expression, and to practice his own faith and belief. Then we can see dignity. Dignity of each individual should be assumed. Equality. All individuals should be treated equally. And nevertheless, fraternity. It speaks about the feeling of brotherhood, the feeling of sisterhood, and a sense of belonging with the country among its people. There are principles of intercultural education in India. If we see, every individual in India has a worth and dignity of its own. Society exists for the individual and not the individual for the society. Equality and majority rule ought to work in a mutually supplementary, not supplanting manner. Discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, or language, this is intolerable in societal living. One cannot tolerate this discrimination. Every group in India, it has a right to protect, it has a right to conserve, and a right to promote its own culture. Now, if we see the educational system and the pluralistic outlook, for betterment of any society and the world, it depends upon secular-based education. Secularism is needed for the development of democratic qualities. Democratic qualities like justice, like liberty, equality, fraternity, cooperative living, to live with brotherhood. And it's only our educational system that can promote secular attitudes, that can inculcate secular attitude and values through its broad-based aims, through its curricula. It can enlighten teachers and appreciate the activities, and all emphasizing on open-mindedness and equal respect of all religion. Then if we see upholding the democratic principles, our constitution has some vital provisions, and it is the duty of each and every citizen to understand those and to abide by those provisions. The adoption of the fourfold ideal of justice, liberty, equality and fraternity in our constitution has been incorporated for the elimination of social inequalities, for the elimination of economic disparities, and for political privileges. These ideals were needed to purge our disparity, diversity, and a division on the basis of some artificially created social hierarchy. The dignity of the individual and unity of the nation can only be assured when recognition is equally accorded to the preservation of fundamental 17 rights of a citizen on one hand and the needs of the socialistic pattern of society on the other. So, each one of us has to understand what are our fundamental rights and what are our fundamental duties. The directives of the state policy, they indicate a positive approach which is necessary for helping the citizens to secure for themselves the highest standard of living economically, socially, culturally and politically. Then we have the linguistic diversities. If we see our country, this is one of the features of Indian society. The presence of more than dozen languages and an almost impossible number of dialects. So we have different languages which are spoken in different parts of the country. We have Hindi, Urdu, Punjabi, people speaking Gujarati, Marathi, Assamese, Kashmiri, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada and many languages across the country, across India. Now, there is no harm in each linguistic group trying to improve its own language. But when the difference is made, the basis of conflict, tension and many difficulties arise because of language. Linguism is the tendency which encourages a linguistically united group to extol the virtues of its own language. This tendency is harmful for nation, as any other ism. This linguism is the root of the language problem in India. And it is steadily becoming more and more virulent and intense. This diversity in language sometimes becomes the cause of demonstrations, sometimes becomes the cause of conflicts, violence, and consequently it gives lots of tensions. What are the fundamental problems of this linguism? Let us see. We have many questions. Which language should be the link language in the country? Which language should be considered the national language? What status should English language have in the pattern of education, etc., etc.? So, because of regional affinities, people advocate the case of their own language as their national language. Thus, the varieties of Indian language pose situations of difference in the Indian social life. Apart from language diversities, we in our country have regional and cultural diversities also. Before we discuss the regional and cultural diversities, we should be clear about the meaning of cultural diversity. First of all, culture is not synonymous with society. Culture includes both material and non-material elements, all of which are products of human society. What is regional diversity? If we ask, what is a region first of all? A region may be defined as a territory, the inhabitants of which have an emotional attachment to it because of commonality of caste, customs and common way of life, tradition, language, we can say religion and socio-economic and political stages of development. By regionalism, we mean the existence of a variety of regional groups within a society. There are many causes at the root of the regionalism, like we have geographical causes, psychological causes, cultural causes, lingual, historical, political and economic. There is regional imbalance, which means disparity in the standard of living of the people residing in different regions of the country. Let us see what are the reasons of regional imbalance. Regional imbalance occurs due to many reasons, like we have non-availability or non-utilization of natural resources, and basically most important, lack of educational facilities, lack of economic opportunities, lack of strong will among the people for development, or sometimes we can say neglect of region by the government, and there can be many more reasons. Again, if we see our society, we have cultural diversities. In India, we know that people belong to different cultures. Their ideologies vary. It can be described as the existence or acceptance or promotion of multiple cultural traditions within a single jurisdiction, usually considered in terms of the culture associated with an ethnic group. Due to the influence of mobility, the people of different cultures come across. Cultural diversity is the existence of a variety of cultural or ethnic groups within a society. It should be realized by all that appreciating and respecting cultural diversities is essential. In this way, we can make our nation strong. We can see the education plays an immense role for the national development. Change is inevitable. We can see our society, it is dynamic. It is in a constant flux. And it is education which must adjust itself to changing situations. Education has assumed a great responsibility with the march of civilization. It is education which is vital investment for human and economic development, and it is education which is influenced by the environment within which it exists. It is no longer concerned with imparting civilization. It is concerned with the right type of development in human. Role of education is inevitable. Education is concerned with preparing the mind of pupils for the right type of thinking in the society, so that the problems which we discuss, the problems of stratification and disintegration which the society faces, it can be solved very peacefully. Education is the means which can play an important role for the national development. It is the education which should enable an individual to sublimate the basic instincts and develop a very, very healthy attitude towards life. The concept of democracy and world citizenship should be fostered only through education. We again have the problem of addressing the marginalization in education. Some examples of the most disadvantaged sections of the society are girls and women. We have ethnic minorities, we have poor households, people living in informal settlements, or differently abled persons, or rural population, or nomadic populations, those affected by armed conflicts, etc., etc. So it has to be seen the factors for the exclusion of such group and lack of educational opportunity for them. In fact, poverty, gender, ethnicity, geographical location, disability, race and language are the reasons that create cycles of disadvantage in education. This carries a high price for societies as well as for individuals. So, addressing marginalization is a matter of urgency on several counts. We have few suggestions to solve such problems. There should be good policies backed by a commitment to equality which can make a difference. Education must ensure that the children at a disadvantage get access to good quality learning environment. They should get counseling of well-trained teachers. Child labor should be eradicated. We accept the diversity, but this should not become an obstacle in the growth and development of an individual, development of the society, development of the nation. Moreover, we consider diversity as our strengths and not our weaknesses. So to conclude, learners, today we have discussed about the concept of Indian social structure and its nature. What are the basic problems of our Indian society? What are the various obstacles in the progress of Indian society and maintaining its secular status like caste, class, religion, language and region have been explained to you. You have also acquainted with the changing social fabric and pluralism. You came to know the concept of marginalization and gender equality. You have learned the role of education in national development and improvement of human relationship. You have learned the necessity of tolerance, adjustment and national as well as international understanding. So I am sure learners, after learning this, after going through this session, you will be easily able to critically analyze the problems of Indian society in the context of national development. You will be able to discuss the regional, the cultural and linguistic diversities. You will be able to explain the problem of maintaining a secular status of the country and discuss the role of education, which is very important for the national development. Thank you, dear learners. Thank you.